Elon Musk says that he's going to withdraw his $97.4 billion bid for OpenAI as long as the company remains a nonprofit. Joining us now, OpenAI investor Geoff Lewis. He's a founding and managing partner of Bedrock. Was it a real bid? That there are reports aboard, but it's not even a formal offer.
Well, it's not a formal withdrawal either. I'm looking at
it. Right, but it's neither. It's neither a formal bid nor a formal.
Then we will withdraw.
What's he want? What's behind all this?
You know, I'm not a mind reader, but he's a brilliant entrepreneur. He's one of the most important people on the planet, brilliant innovator. So I certainly wouldn't underestimate him. I'll tell you that, Joe.
So were you watching yesterday? You saw the other Joe, the richer Joe Lonsdale. I think the mission was that it's supposed to be open, and it's not. It's done amazing things. If Elon would be able to buy it, it'd be a great thing for the world.
You know, look, Joe's great. I like Joe. I'd say that as a venture capitalist, you always back the entrepreneurs that you've invested in. Joe's an investor in Elon. I'm an investor in Sam. I think they're both phenomenal entrepreneurs. I support Sam running OpenAI. I respect Elon a lot. I feel like the world should be big enough for these two entrepreneurs to both coexist, and that it doesn't need to be zero-sum.
What do you think's really going on then? Do you think that Elon can see that he's behind, or?
I mean, look, xAI is a formidable product, and they're investing a lot of capital. They've got some great engineers working on it, and I would never underestimate anything Elon's doing, but it is clear that OpenAI has become, in the United States and beyond in the Western world, the default, certainly with consumers and with enterprises, it's the default AI product.
But you can't necessarily take it and go from a charitable situation to an open product that is for profit. And I mean, this is one page. This is not a very deep lawsuit or anything that goes into it. It says we're violating the charitable obligations. And there are already attorneys general in California and Delaware that are looking into this. Is this a checkmate sort of move?
It's been a capped profit. I don't think it's a checkmate move. It's been a capped profit for many years. I don't think Elon had major problems with this until it started massively working. I didn't hear anything from him in the public sphere, at least prior to the launch of ChatGPT in 2022. So it seems like this has only become an issue for him as it started to work. And I think it's for the courts to decide, can this conversion go through?
Let me posit an idea with you.
Yeah.
The idea being that last week, it appears that he's losing in court to try to prevent the for-profit piece of this from happening. The judge says it's a, quote, stretch. The case is a stretch. He says to himself, OK, we're going to now try to make a bid for it, knowing relatively full well that the board's going to say no, but I'm going to put a floor on the price that the not-for-profit ultimately has to get, knowing that the attorney generals in Delaware and California, their only real responsibility as that transaction relates to that transaction is to say that the not-for-profit ultimately has to get fair value.
Right.
And one of the ways to get fair value would be to look around and say, well, this guy's offering this, so that would establish fair value. I have a view, which is actually that nobody's going to look at the metric of that offer, because they're going to say there's no credibility, in truth, to the actual price of that offer, given all the other lawsuits and other things. They're going to say, we know this is all part of this other effort. What do you think of that framing?
I think that's a valid hypothesis. You know, I think Elon's got a syndicate of investors behind him. Joe from 8VC, Gavin Baker. So those guys might be able to help Elon get the $97 billion or something. And who knows?
And I say the AG discounts that. It discounts their involvement because of the ecosystem that most of the people who are involved in this, as you said, you back the entrepreneur. They're all invested in all of the other assets that Elon owns, largely.
Yes.
And so they say to themselves, you know what? It costs me nothing if he doesn't win. And by the way, I get brownie points, and I'll be able to get into the next round of funding for SpaceX and everything else if I do this. And if he wins, he'll figure out a way to make me whole in the same way that even if in the X case, or Twitter now, it didn't totally work out, or it hasn't worked out completely, but he's given them 25% of xAI. I mean, there's lots of moving parts that you can move around.
Yeah, I think that's a sound theory, Andrew. I think for me, this all just underscores how impressive what OpenAI has achieved over the past few years is. I mean, the fact that all of this maneuvering is happening to try to take control of this organization is really unprecedented in business.
What do you make of the fact that of all the companies, so many others are better capitalized? So Amazon's better capitalized, Google's better capitalized, Microsoft, if you think they go on their own eventually, better capitalized, and that Sam is going to have to continue to find funding like over and over and over again to make this work?
You know, it's getting less capital intensive in some ways. Certainly on the training side, it's getting less capital intensive. I think a lot was said. You know, President Trump's first full day in office, the Oval Office, was President Trump, Sam Altman, Masa from SoftBank, and Larry Ellison. And you know, those businessmen have access to a lot of capital. So I'm not worried about Sam's ability to keep capitalizing OpenAI.
Okay, Geoff, thank you.
So there's room for 2. There's not enough room for 10? How many?
There should be room for dozens. And look, I mean, Elon is transcendent. I believe Sam is a young, emerging, extraordinarily talented entrepreneur. And I really hope that we can find room on this planet for both of them to coexist. It feels like we should be able to do that.
Do you think there's a way to settle the situation?
I believe there is, yes.
What would that take?
I think it comes down to those two individuals. I think they have to figure it out.
Does Elon get a stake in it? Is that he's still mad because he invested the money?
Look, from my vantage point, he absolutely should. He did co-found it. He came up with the name. He was instrumental in getting it started. I don't think anyone's debating that. I don't think Sam's debating that. I think if Elon wanted a stake in it, I think OpenAI would be open to accommodating that. That's my hypothesis.